Who is the OPTOMA ZH450 really good for? Who should steer clear? And does it make sense to spend that kind of money if you just want a decent picture for movies or gaming at home? If you've ever set up a projector and felt like you were guessing whether the brightness would actually cut through your living room lighting, you know the hesitation that comes before a purchase. That's exactly the spot I'm standing in today, trying to decide if this 4500 lumens Full HD model is worth the price tag for the average household. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the kind of environment where a projector like the ZH450 makes sense. Imagine a mid-size family room with a 10-foot ceiling, modest ambient light from a couple of windows, and a screen or white wall that's roughly 100 inches diagonal. You've probably tried a TV before, maybe a 55-inch 4K unit, and found yourself stepping back to see the whole picture. The ZH450's 4500 lumens promise a bright enough image to keep the picture lively even when the curtains are only half closed. In real-world tests that I've seen on community forums, a unit of this brightness level can comfortably outshine a typical 500 lumens home theater projector when the room isn't totally dark. That's a practical strength. You get a bright, reasonably sharp 1080p image without having to build a darkroom bunker. On the flip side, that brightness comes with a trade-off you'll notice if you're used to cinema-grade contrast. The ZH450 is a DLP projector, and while DLP offers crisp motion handling great for fast-paced games or sports, the native contrast ratio isn't as deep as the expensive laser-based models. In a room with a good amount of ambient light, blacks can look more like dark grays, which means the overall picture might feel a little washed out when you're watching drama or horror movies. If you're a cinephile who expects inky blacks and a towering peak brightness, this is a practical weakness you'll have to live with. Now let's talk about the setup experience, because that's often where buyers get burned. The ZH450 uses a standard 1.2 meter throw distance, which translates to a fairly flexible placement. You can mount it on the ceiling or place it on a shelf about 6 feet away and still hit that 100-inch sweet spot. For someone who doesn't want to drill into the ceiling, that flexibility is a win. The remote includes basic keystone correction, but you'll quickly discover that the keystone tool is limited to vertical adjustments. If your screen isn't perfectly square, say you've got a slightly angled wall, the image will retain a trapezoidal shape that can't be fully fixed from the remote. In that case, you either have to manually tilt the projector or use a third-party correction lens, which adds cost and complexity. That's a hidden trade-off that many first-time projector owners overlook. What about the actual color performance? OPTOMA advertises a wide color gamut for the ZH450, and in practice the picture does feel vibrant on most streaming services. However, the projector doesn't support HDR10, so you won't see the expanded dynamic range that modern 4K TVs provide. If you primarily watch Netflix, YouTube, or older Blu-ray titles, you'll probably be fine. But if you're chasing the latest HDR games on a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X, you'll notice the lack of HDR brightness peaks. That's another nuance that separates a good enough for everyday viewing device from a high-end home theater machine. The speaker situation is worth a brief mention. The ZH450 includes a built-in mono speaker that's adequate for casual background audio, but anyone who expects cinema-style sound will need an external audio solution, either a soundbar or a full surround system. It's not a deal-breaker, but it does mean you'll have to allocate extra budget if you want an immersive experience. On the other hand, the HDMI 2.0 port does support pass-through of 4K at 60 Hz, making it a solid source for gaming consoles and newer media players. If you're planning a gaming night with friends, the low input lag that DLP projectors typically deliver will feel snappy, and the 1080p resolution will still look sharp at 120 frames per second. So, who should buy the OPTOMA ZH450? If you're a family that watches movies, TV shows, and the occasional sports game in a moderately lit room, and you appreciate the larger-than-life screen feel without breaking the bank, this projector fits the bill. It also works well for gamers who value low input lag and a bright image over deep blacks, especially if your primary console is a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X. Home office users can benefit too. Projecting a 1080p desktop across a big screen can be a productivity boost, and the 4500 lumens output means you can still see the screen clearly even with office lighting on. Conversely, who should skip it? If you're a true audiophile or a home theater purist who wants near theatrical contrast, HDR support, and a fully black picture, you'll likely feel shortchanged. Likewise, renters who can't